Alright, probably a video I shouldn't bother with, but it's a bit of a legal update. Jones R has filed another motion paper, a response and answer, but it's also a new motion. I mean, this is completely not consistent with any legal procedure. And I'll post a link. It's on the website. He's basically just rehashing the same arguments, making some new accusations. I mean, he's character assassination in the documents. He's arguing where he's not a character assassin. I mean, it just is kind of ludicrous and funny. Again, saying things that aren't true. But anyway, so I mean, he's still harping on this statement of facts things in the complaint, and I'll explain this one more time. But I mean, there's really huge amounts of Supreme Court decisions. You can basically write a complaint in crayon. I mean, the only thing a complaint has to do is articulate some sort of law that was broken and somehow point to somebody who broke it. And that's about all that has to be done in a complaint. All right? You don't prove the case in a complaint. The law actually says a short, concise statement. I mean, he even quotes the court rulings. He doesn't quote the best ones, but he quotes some. It says right there, a short, concise statement. I mean, it's just supposed to outline the basics of the case, and so that's had been outlined. He knows what the case is about, and so it's just a game playing. I mean, this really is how lawyers do their papers, though. It's just playing stupid games. And then he files this paper and calls it there's a rule in the rules of the court where you can get a complaint dismissed because it's completely like from Mars. It's like accusing somebody of they stole my magic diamonds that run my brain or something. Some sort of claim that's just so preposterous a court can say, yeah, there's no reasonable possibility there's any case here. Because this case, the guy is talking complete nonsense. So, I mean, citing that catch in the law is kind of, I mean, you can do it. No one's going to stop you from doing it. But it's just cheap. It's just a cheap maneuver to use some provision in the law is intended to save people time in cases that there's no law covering the issue and there's no possibility that any reasonable person could see any reason to have a case. Obviously, that isn't true here. I mean, I don't know what the percentages are of people on YouTube who thinks there is an issue here about who can do what to who and what they can say about each other and how they can fuck with each other's videos. I think there's a decent number of people who think this is an issue worth resolving. So that's just a stupid argument. And then to the summary judgment thing, I mean, he uses this word in here, and it's completely inappropriate. He cites a bunch of, he quotes some of the law, but he leaves out the most important quote, which is the quote that says the person filing such a motion has the burden of proof. Not the burden of providing an argument. No, the burden to prove beyond any reasonable doubt. Okay, that's what you have to do in a summary judgment motion. You're basically requesting that there not be a trial. You basically have to prove that your case is so slam dunk that you couldn't possibly lose it. And you didn't do that in this stupid document, okay? You didn't even come close to doing that. So anyway, it's just, whatever. So who knows where the case is going? Like I said, the judge probably doesn't know anything about this. I mean, the presiding judge. I mean, apparently these conferences are handled by a magistrate judge of some kind, some lower judge. And this judge decided to be a prick, and so it'll be submitted to the regular judge, and he'll make the final decision. He'll say, okay, the guy didn't show. The other judge will say to the other judge, well, these guys didn't show up, and so we dismiss the case or whatever, some statement like that, and it'll be up to the Hittner guy to decide whether he's going to let that catch throw this case out. And like I say, if he does, then my first recourse is I can file a motion for reconsideration, and so I'll do that. And what that you can basically do is just argue you're completely out of your mind, you fucker. You better think straight. And I'll just point out. And what I'll do is, I'm gonna play Johnny. LittleJohnnyJerkoff did another video. I didn't watch his first two, but I watched this last one. And yeah, I'm gonna send that one to the judge in the reconsideration motion, because he just proves the point that, you know, these assholes want the liberty to be assholes, and if something doesn't stop them, they're just going to keep pushing that line further and further, and it's nonsense. There's no reason to put up with this shit. You know, jackasses who can't, you know, they can't moderate themselves at all. I mean, that's just bullshit. We can expect people to be you don't have to be civil, but you gotta, there's lines and you can't cross, and we know what these lines are, and it's just bullshit. So anyway, so then if the motion reconsideration fails, then I will file this in Washington, D.C., and it's going to take a while because the government will be the defendant, and so I have to wait for the Attorney General's office to respond to the lawsuit, and so it's going to take time. You know, it's going to be at least, you know, twice as long as a regular case. And yeah, I'll just say that there's no point in having a DMCA law, because you can't, obviously, you can't enforce it. There's no, a litigant can't file a claim. Not unless they're, you know, very wealthy, because if you have to fly to 1,500 miles to go to a 30-minute conference, and that's just one conference, I mean, you'd have multiple motions. Motions are much more important than stupid conferences. So if you have to show up for a conference, they're going to obligate you to show up for the motions. You'd have to be making, you know, a half dozen at least trips to Texas. I mean, who's got $10,000 to throw away? Who can leave work for 3 days here, 3 days there, 3 days there, wherever the court says you have to leave work? I mean, it's just idiotic. There's no practical way this law can be enforced. Not if judges are not going to allow you to do teleconferencing to litigate them. So I mean, there's no law. It doesn't exist. It's unconstitutional. When a law can't be enforced, it's unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment, and so we'll see what happens with that, if that's where it has to go. And so I guess that's enough on the Joneser side. So let's go to little Johnny Jackass.
Recently made a video stating that he will probably have his lawsuit be dismissed because he's required to go to Texas, and he cannot go to Texas. Now, I don't like to gloat, but yeah, in your face, you got fucking pwned, bitch. You know,
Yeah, it's that kind of funny. So you live in Mexico, and you're an elitist, a rich guy in Mexico, so you don't, I guess, give a damn about justice. But there's no getting pwned here. Well, what got pwned? Let's see. What we found out is that regular people can't file lawsuits, even though they're willing to spend $350. They can't, in any practical way, defend their rights in our legal system unless they're wealthy. I mean, that's what we've learned through this case. Have we learned something else? I mean, they're simple issues to be decided. Either there is a copyright violation or there isn't. Either there is a case of libel or there isn't. All right? And so we didn't get any of that decided, did we, Johnny? So there wasn't any decision about what's right and wrong. No, the only thing that was decided was that poor and middle-class Americans have no access to the legal system. That was what was decided. So you might celebrate that because you're a rich jackass in Mexico, in an impoverished country, you know, sipping your fucking wine. So that makes sense to you. But to regular people in this country who give a damn about the United States Constitution and the 14th Amendment, well, they're not going to celebrate that.
Seen that video he's made like 4 times? I can't stop watching it.
You know, I wish I had the copy of the video where you're crying. You know, I would not stop watching that one now, you know, in hindsight. You know, just because you've turned into such a little weasel. And that's such a perfect, it amplifies what you are. You are just a girl. You're a sissy, a little wimp. You have no manly balls whatsoever. You have to resort to this disgustingly cheap rhetoric. Your psychology, like you're such a, I mean, you know, the psychiatric profession must just cringe thinking about fucktards like you in their profession. I mean, you're making psychology look like astrology. I mean, you're a disgrace.
Beautiful. So why isn't Mendham required to go to Texas? Doesn't make sense. He lives in New Jersey. Why would he have to go to Texas? I know. Because you filed the fucking lawsuit in Texas, you stupid cunt.
And look, you know, you are so stupid, okay? It's the first priority is to file a lawsuit where a crime was committed. Obviously, in the case of the internet, that can't take place. Then the second priority is to give to file the litigation in the place where the defendants live, okay? Because it's a courtesy to the people getting accused, okay? That's part of the law. There's some protections